At the start of the film, we see a boy named Michel Silenzi cycling to his school in Trieste, Italy. He has a €50 note and intends to use it to buy a party costume. At school, he sits behind his long-term crush, Stella. Their class is interrupted by Giovanna, a police officer who is also Michel's mother. She's there to inquire about a student's disappearance. Giovanna requests that the class notify the police if they hear from the missing student. Michel's nose begins to bleed after she leaves, prompting him to rush to the bathroom. His bullies, who have been bothering him for a long time, threaten him to give them all his money. He returns home, disheartened by the incident. He takes out a few pennies he had saved and decides to buy one with them. Michel then goes to a rusty-looking store and requests a superhero costume. The shopkeeper hands him a skin-tight overall and a flimsy cape. He claims it's the costume of a Chinese superhero. Michel does not seem to like the costume, but she buys it anyway. When Giovanna returns home from work, she sees Michel in his costume, refusing to attend the party because he believes he looks stupid. She tells him that he looks good and sends him to the party. Michel has a good time there, even talking to his crush Stella. But then, his bullies show a video of Stella walking down the street. They claim the video was discovered on Michel's phone, and he has been stalking Stella. Michel, embarrassed, runs to the bathroom and locks himself in. All of his classmates bang on the door from the outside. Michel is frustrated and wishes he could be invisible just before the lights go out. In the next scene, we see him jump out of the bathroom window and return home. The following morning, Michel awakens to his dog barking at him. He pays him little attention and goes to the bathroom to brush his teeth. When Michel looks in the mirror, he is astounded to see only his robe and the brush. His body is not visible in the mirror. Michel rushes out and takes off his robe. Just then, his mother walks in and completely ignores the boy, demonstrating that only Michel sees himself. When she begins to look around, Michel quickly writes on a piece of paper that he left for school early and places it on the bed. Giovanna reads it, dismissing the issue. After leaving the room, she calls Michel on his phone. An invisible Michel picks it up and assures her that he is fine. He dresses up in long-sleeved clothes, unsure what to do next. After covering his entire body, he goes to school and observes Stella from afar. Michel then notices his bully and decides to teach him a lesson for bothering him so much. He removes his clothes and walks into the school, naked and invisible. During class, he picks up the bully's paintball gun and uses it on the teacher, forcing the teacher to suspend the bully. Then Michel goes to the girls' changing room and watches them undress. Suddenly, a towel falls on him, revealing his silhouette to everyone. His powers begin to fade at this point, allowing him to become visible again. The girls scream when they see a naked Michel under the towel. The next day, Michel attends his class, where a psychologist named Basili is giving a lecture on teen mental health. 2 of Michel's classmates have run away from home in the last month, so he believes it is critical to understand the way teens think. As Michel listens to the lecture, his hands begin to glow before disappearing. Fortunately, the class is over, and he dashes out before anyone can notice him. He rushes home and finds his younger sister, Candela, in his room. Michel asks her to go downstairs and face the wall. A suspicious Candela opens and closes the door to make it appear that she has left. Michel doesn't turn around to check and begins to remove his clothes. When he turns around, Candela screams in terror, realizing her brother is invisible. Michel calms her down and explains that his costume has given him superpowers. Meanwhile, at the police station, psychiatrist Basili collaborates with Giovanna to investigate the missing children. Giovanna believes the children have been kidnapped, but Basili claims they are simply being rebellious, as is normal for their age. When Giovanna returns home, Michel remains invisible. Giovanna speaks with someone on the phone, revealing that Michel is adopted. Michel, surprised and hurt, walks out of the house and toward a nearby swing. Stella arrives while he is swinging and misidentifies Michel as a ghost. She does not appear to be scared and instead asks him to be her friend. To communicate with her, he draws a smiley face in the sand. The two agree to meet again. After Stella leaves, Michel notices a man nearby staring at him, despite the fact that he is invisible. The man walks away with a stick, revealing that he is blind. Michel makes a nighttime visit to Stella's home. Stella is overjoyed to have made an invisible friend. The two kiss, But Michel's powers begin to fade. He runs away before Stella can see his face. Later, Stella is alone in her gymnastics class when a needle punctures her back. It causes her to fall unconscious. Meanwhile, Michel has decided to inform Stella about him being the invisible boy. He travels to her gymnastics class with his dog. When he approaches the building, he notices a masked man carrying Stella. Michel attacked the man, and the dog bit his hand. However, the man escapes with the girl. Later, police arrive on the scene. They believe the missing children were abducted rather than fleeing. Stella awakens in a strange facility, her head attached to several wires. Basily, the psychiatrist, is there interrogating her. It turns out that he is the one who is kidnapping the children. They perform some tests on the girl and confine her to a cell. She is joined by two of her friends who had previously gone missing. Michel is alone on a nearby beach when the blind man from the day before appears in front of him. The man answers all of Michel's questions before he even asks them. It's as if he can read minds. When Michel asks who he is, the man says his name is Andrzej, and he is Michel's father. The boy refuses to believe Andrzej and accuses him of lying. Andrzej then begins to share his story. He used to be a normal man from a small Russian town until a devastating nuclear explosion struck. Many people died as a result of the radiation, and others experienced permanent changes. It caused their DNA to mutate, resulting in unique superhuman abilities such as flying, telepathy, and invisibility. These people were dubbed specials and were taken to a military camp known as the Division to be used as weapons. The Division pushed them beyond their capabilities. The more power the specials had, the weaker they became. Everyone was infertile, with the exception of Andrzej and Michele's mother, so it was impossible to breed new specials. The couple gave birth to Michel, the first special needs child. However, as soon as he was born, they took him away. So the parents decided to run away with Michel, and they were successful. However, the Division's members refused to back down. They pursued the couple in hopes of reuniting the child. Michel's father had the ability to read people's minds, and his mother was able to remain invisible. Andrzej managed to flee with Michel, but his wife was killed by the Division. Andrzej knew Michel wasn't safe with him, so he placed him in front of Giovanna's door after reading her mind and confirming her good character. The people of the Division have now discovered that the special kid lives in town, so they kidnap children and test them to see if they are unique. Michel is shocked when she learns his true origins. He almost doesn't believe it, but Andrzej says they don't have much time to talk because the fisherman next to them suspects Andrzej and has called the police. Andrzej hands Michel a suit that disappears along with his body. He then erases the fisherman's memory and leaves. Basily is soon followed by the police. Giovanna reveals to him that Michele is adopted, which leads Basily to believe that he is the special child. He offers to take Michel home. When they get home, Michel notices Basily's hand injury, which is exactly where his dog bit Stella's kidnapper. He looks at the man suspiciously and tries to flee. Basily has locked all of the doors and is preparing to abduct him. Michel rushes into a room and removes his clothes, becoming invisible. He manages to flee while Basily pursues him. When they are on the streets, Michel notices his bully Ivan riding his bike. He sits behind him and instructs him to drive away quickly. Ivan agrees, despite his nervousness. When they arrive in a safe location, Michel reveals himself to Ivan and tells him about their classmate's abduction. Meanwhile, Stella and her friends notice ventilation in the ceiling. They climb on each other, and Stella manages to get outside. While hiding from guards, she climbs a tower and finds a searching light. Believing that her invisible friend is looking for her, she smiles at the light and flashes it into the sky. Michel notices Stella's smiling face and realizes she is trying to hint at them. He and Ivan follow the light, but as soon as they arrive, Stella is apprehended by guards. Ivan uses his paintball gun to cause an electric malfunction just as an invisible Michel enters. He sees Basily and his men watching Giovanna and Andrzej, who have banded together to look for Michel. He then moves in and knocks out a guard. Using his gun, he threatens the other guard into opening the cell where Stella and the others are trapped. After getting them out and trapping the guards inside, Michel reveals himself to his friends, who are shocked. The boys want to flee, but Stella insists that they save an elderly man who she had seen locked in another room. She and Michel attempt to save the man, but Stella leads him to the villains and points a gun at Michel. She falls unconscious, and the old man behind her begins speaking. It turns out that he has mind-controlling abilities. He has been directing Basili and Stella to bring Michelle here. He then brings down a submarine and puts Michelle and Stella inside. The men lead the two into the sea. Just then, Andrzej and Giovanna arrive at the location and meet Ivan. The building is set to explode in a few seconds. They quickly rescue the two kidnapped children and Basili from inside. Andrzej reads Basili's mind and realizes someone is controlling him. They quickly flee the building, which explodes in pieces shortly after. Back in the submarine, Michel discovers his telekinesis ability and begins destroying the place. Using his abilities, he defeats the men and saves himself and Stella. They finally make it back to the shore, where a large crowd awaits them. Michel becomes invisible in front of them, demonstrating his power. Andrzej informs Michael that they will need to erase everyone's memories because the division will come looking for them again. Michel complies and kisses Stella for the final time. Andrzej tells Michelle he'll be back and departs after wiping everyone's memories. Everyone then returns to their normal lives. The scene shifts to somewhere in Russia. Michelle's mother, who was believed to be dead, was only wounded in the encounter. She defeated the division back then and now rules it. In fact, she sent those people to bring Michelle back to her. The woman is now against all normal people who treat them as if they were freaks. Finally, a guard informs her that, while they have lost Michelle, they have found his twin sister, Natasha. In the flashback, it revealed, Andrzej fled with 2 children that day. Knowing Natasha is found somewhere in Morocco, she is waiting to reunite hints at a sequel. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.